So what we're going to do now is a couple of techniques to easily reposition your line from any downstream angle to whatever upstream angle you like, from 90 to 70 degrees, even to 45 degrees, because this time of the year we want to slow our line a little bit down. And that's also why we're fishing a density line. In this particular situation, as you can see, it's a relatively small river. That's why I have picked an 11.6 foot 7/8 weight C&D rod. It's a rather deep action that will allow me to reposition my line with ease because it buys me a little bit of time. Delicate little rod with a sink line. Most of the time you see casting demonstrations like this with floating lines because it's easier to show, but we're actually fishing and I want you to get more out of your fishing. So I've picked the Next Cast Zone 350 and it's a float sink 1 line, and I've added 10 foot of the guideline tip to it, and that's a sink 2, sink 3, because at this time of the year everything is still a little bit slow and we want to slow our fly down. What you see quite often, that people will dabble with something like a double spey, which is rather noisy. And personally, I couldn't care less what you do with the water in front of you, because I'm not fishing your line, but you might be able to ruining your chances with too much splashing. I do care, however, if I'm right behind you and you do something like this to me, just to get a minuscule change of direction, because it's absolutely not necessary. There is situations where you can do it in large rivers and you don't fish the water right in front of you anyways. If you don't care about that, that is totally fine and up to you. Again, there is so many different styles, so many different techniques. What I'm going to show you today is going to work with a longer stroke, like a more traditional spey cast, where you use more top end, as well as a traditional underhand stroke, which is a short stroke method, very often used with shorter head systems, and it looks a little bit like this. Irregardless of your preferred casting style, let's get into repositioning your line. A very popular one that you see quite a lot is a snap T or even a snap C. It's where you basically bring the line back with a sharp snap, anchor it in front of you, a so-called sustained anchor, sweep around and send it out again. As you can already tell, it's a very intrusive method. And a lot of people are initiating the sweep with their hands, ripping the line out. But if you just use your body to reposition your line, it will be much cleaner and much nicer. And I'll show this to you real quick right now. Just your body rotation is enough to rip the line out. And you're back on the other side. That's one method. It allows you to keep a heavy fly in front of you with a heavy sink tip. Another method, and that's the more traditional style, something that I prefer, is the traditional spey sweep, where you bring your line from a downstream angle all the way up to 90 degrees, and it only depends on your upper body rotation, the way you set yourself up for a cast. Okay. What it does require is a little bit of line control. So we keep our rod in the start position right here. It already builds up tension, and then we will sweep it around and spey cast it out, okay? I'll do this in a smoother movement. It's down here, up, we build up tension, we sweep our upper body around, lift our arms, and we shoot our line out. Yeah? This is the ideal scenario in a small little river where you don't want to be noisy, you don't want to splash around. There's a couple of other fancy ones. You can do an awful lot of things, like an aerialized snap. There's a bit more of a show thing, but it does the same thing. It buys you more time mid-air. It's where you snap the line up, you sweep your body around, and you're shooting the line out. Yeah? That's another one. You do the exact same thing that you do with a snap T, but you keep the whole thing in the air. You will compress the line in a big Z, sweep your body around, send it out. The beautiful thing is you do not splash in front of you. You just compress the line here, sweep around and anchor to your right in your normal anchor position. Yeah? It will buy you all the time in the world to do that. Now that we are in a downstream position, but we are on the left-hand side of the river, we can't really utilize a traditional snake roll. I'll just show it to you from another position. A traditional snake roll would be the pickup of the line, we set an anchor point and send it out. In this case, it makes very little sense because it's obviously the wrong direction. I can, however, do an off-shoulder snake roll, or I can even set my snake roll on the other side. Yeah? So I can do this, sweep up, snake roll here, and send the line across. Same principle, it's just that we do not use the initial roll to lift the line out of the water and sweep around. We lift the line by a little bit more time on our top hand side here, anchor the line right next to us and send it out. I'm gonna do this again in slow motion for you guys to see. Stop, sharp roll, out. Again, a really cool way to aerialize a lot of dynamic, keep it at bay in a very short little radius here and force an anchor to our right hand side opposed to a sustained anchor that violates the water in front of you. And again, it depends on the situation. We're in a small river right here, it's deep, it's slow, it's cold. We don't want to mess around with the line too much. So a traditional double spey where I again sweep the line around just to reposition my line is intrusive by nature. Of course, it depends on who's doing it. There's people who really rip the line out in a noisy way, and there's people that do it with an awful lot of style. Very much like any sustained anchor. If I have the opportunity and if the conditions allow me to be stealthy, I'll always choose stealth over anything else, because it will allow me to catch more fish, to be less intrusive. I don't want the fish to know that I'm here. I don't want the fish to know that I'm present in the moment and I'm trying to catch it. Is it weird? Yes, sometimes it's also a little bit too much on the stealth side and it's not needed because fish can be quite dumb and that we all do like a big and dumb fish. But the truth is, in most cases, especially in tricky scenarios, it's better to have an additional arrow in your quiver to do that. So I'm aerializing my spey cast, my double spey. Cast, sweep, forward cast, correct my line, my angle, because it is very stealthy. Keep the tension up, forward cast, rotate your body around, and that's it. And you can also do this with a lot more top hand. Yeah, so this was a more Scandinavian style with a short stroke movement, but if you are that kind of caster and you were born and raised on more traditional spey methods, more top hand. Sweep around. Let's just assume I have a crazy downstream wind here with the same direction of current and flow. And the wind will prohibit for me to bring my line to my dominant hand side. That means I'll have to try everything humanly possible to keep my line on the left hand side to push it away from my body, also just to be safe. The easiest solution is, of course, to keep everything on the left hand side by simply switching hands. Not everyone is comfortable with it. Especially with switch rods, we have the tendency to cast over our non-dominant shoulder, and it's called cat cast or goofy cast. There's a variety of things that we can do. So one of the things is we can use an off-shoulder snake roll. Same thing that we would do on our dominant hand side, except for we use the roll to rotate the line. Naturally, the wind will push it away from us and we'd be able to cast across. I'll do this in a motion. One way. The other way is to bring the line up, sweep it around like a double spey to the other side and cast it across. And we can also aerialize this process. Bring the line up, cast it out, sweep it over to the non-dominant side and send it across. Do we need all these fancy repositioning casts? Maybe not. Is it good to know them? I certainly believe so. The cleanest method, bring it up, single spey up to 90 degrees. Practice this. The single spey is the foundation of all of these casts. If you can cast a 90-degree angle without sustaining your anchor, this is where you want to be. Yeah? And all of these other fancy repositioning casts, beneficial in certain situations? I do believe so. Train them, it's good fun. And as we know, salmon fishing can be quite tough in between. So it's a beautiful method to kill some time. And again, different requirements, different rivers, different fly setups require different methods. Let's say it was really, really cold and we'd be fishing for steelhead. Sustaining your anchor can be very beneficial if used appropriately. But ideally, in our scenario, in our Nordic rivers or in our rivers here in the UK and Scotland, being stealthy is usually the way to go.